In this video, we're going to look at tucking the system down into the floor void and tucking the system up into the ceiling void. I see a lot of projects where someone's just created a stud frame and they've connected the stud frame, a traditional stud frame where you have a top plate and a sole plate and then the upright studs. And what they've done is they've connected the sole plate to the floorboards, on top of the floorboards here, and then they've connected to the ceiling, and then they've put all the upright studs in place. And I thought if I just show these pictures here of this particular installation, you can see potentially what you might have gone over the top of if you have a similar property to this. See, what we like to do is cut open the floor, because when you cut open the floor, it exposes holes in the structure, and you'll know what's in the floor once you cut open the floor. And that area beneath the floor is still the direct noise path. We also like to cut open the ceiling, and as you take a closer inspection of the actual where the joists go into the wall, for those of you that do have ceiling joists running into the separating party wall, you'll see that there is holes around the joist, because how long have those joists been there? For those of you that have a property like this, say 1950s, 1960s, that's a long time that people have been walking up and down on these floorboards and creating that movement that's going to dislodge bricks, it's going to dislodge sand and cement. So it's a good idea to cut open the ceiling and expose this area, because as you take a closer inspection, you can actually see through to the neighbour's property on some of these holes. Some of these holes might be little holes, but a lot of little holes make up a big hole. So if for those of you that are hearing clear conversation, or maybe some of you hearing TV presenter's voice, or maybe your neighbours on the FaceTime, if you're hearing the actual person they're on the phone to, that's high frequency. That high frequency struggles to come through bricks and mortar, and that would signal you have holes in the structure. So always cut open the ceiling and cut open the floor for those that you have suspended floor voids, and check for those holes. After you've bricked up the holes in the structure, I recommend sound deadening the wall. You hear me say that in all of my videos. That's where we coat the wall in a sound deadening membrane. And you don't have to use this 20mm rubber. You could use a viscoelastic membrane such as a Texsound, and there's various other types of rubber. But this is the system that we find most effective. You think your wall is like a ringing drum cymbal. It's resonating. And what we're doing is we're putting our hand on it to sound deaden it. And then we're building a system in front of it. We're not just leaving that wall to continue resonate and then build a wall in front of it. So I like to sound deaden the wall first. I put our hand on that ringing drum cymbal before we do any more soundproofing. And this is a good foundational layer, because you can take the time to make sure the wall is airtight. I like to put this foundational sound deadening layer on a lot of the wall systems that I teach. One of the DIYers on the Noise-Free DIY soundproofing course was telling me the other day, saying it's actually quite a nice therapeutic job. It's very easy to do. You just use a Stanley knife and a straight edge. You don't need specialist tools to sound deaden the wall. And there's plenty of time to do it. You can actually put it on the wall, take the time to make sure everything's sealed up, make sure everything's airtight. And just by doing that, you'll feel a noticeable human perceived reduction in that noise from the neighbours next door. The good thing about this rubber that you hear me go on about a lot, and I'm sure a lot of the soundproofing material suppliers are going to cotton onto this. Maybe when they've done a few more installations using this method, they will see the actual massive transformation you can get just by sound deadening the wall first. But this rubber is actually one of the most anti-damp, anti-mold products out there. You can tuck it all the way down, and you can tuck it all the way up. Obviously, don't go blocking up any airflow. This suspended floor void, we actually improve the airflow when we do it. We clear out the suspended floor void, and there's lots of layers that go in a suspended floor void, which we teach on the Noise-Free DIY soundproofing course. If you're not on that, make sure you get an expert to come in and check what you're doing to your suspended floor void. Otherwise, you'll cause yourself lots of different damp problems, including woodworm and dry rot and those types of things. So make sure you get expert advice if you haven't been shown how to do this properly. Next thing I like to do is build a floating frame. It's a frame isolated from the ceiling, wall and floor. So it's decoupled. It has anti-vibrational pads on the floor joist, on the ceiling joist, and it's not like a traditional stud frame. It will have a lot of movement in it, and that's why it works so well. It's it's taking that vibration from the structure. If you built a traditional stud frame, you would have the same vibrational noise that you have in all these joists all the way along, and the walls and the flanking walls and the joists. That will all be the same in the frame if you've built a traditional stud frame. But if you can decouple your frame from the structure, noise is going to struggle to get into that frame. You can already see by sound deadening the wall and decoupling the frame that you've already on your way to getting a really good reduction in noise from the neighbours. Because that frame does have a lot of movement in it at this stage, that is potentially why it is so successful, but it doesn't work well with a clip and channel system. You would have to really connect the frame to the structure to have a clip and channel system with a floating frame, which is why we don't necessarily use a clip and channel system with a floating frame in this way. Next, we insulate that entire frame, and like what you did with that first layer, that foundational sound deadening rubber that we've used in this project, the rock wool goes everywhere. You absolutely insulate every nook and cranny that there is. Not too tight, not too loose, but you insulate everywhere. Next, we install another membrane. This one is a lightweight barrier mat, and it's really important that it's a lightweight barrier mat. And then we install resilient channels, and at this stage the frame will really start to be a lot more rigid. You know, it's not going to move because you've got that rock wool in there, you've got the membrane connected to the frame, and now you have the resilient bars connected to the frame too. And so the frame is really going to take its form now. It's going to really struggle to move as the rest of those layers have been installed to the frame. Now, what you install to these resilient channels next will depend on your budget and your space loss. Like, we like to use the best quality materials, so we're going to install about 3 different layers. We're going to use a cement board, a fibre board, a different type of barrier mat, and then a 15mm sound block board to these resilient bars. But notice how all of the layers are being tucked up into the ceiling void and tucked down into the floor void. I can't stress the importance of this anymore. The difference between tucking the system up and tucking the system down can be the difference between this wall taking 2 days to this wall taking 5 days. It is a lot of work to cut and shape the different layers of the different material around those joists, especially when they go into the separating party wall. Both the ceiling and the floor joists go into the separating party wall, because you've got to create that 4mm isolation gap around each one of these joists or these materials. As it's tucked down and as it's tucked up, as it goes around the joist, that's a 4mm gap all the way around and then sealed with acoustic sealant. All the electrical is brought through all the layers of the system, sealed up with acoustic sealant. And for those of you that are wondering, how do you do the electrical sockets? I actually share exactly how we do the electrical sockets in my new video, Soundproofing for Beginners. In that video, Soundproofing for Beginners, I actually share a complete installation of one of my systems. I share with you one of the lessons off of the noise-free DIY soundproofing course, and I show you exactly how we do the sockets and install one of the systems and the sound deadening rubber. So check out Soundproofing for Beginners if you've not watched that yet. So again, all the layers are tucked up into the ceiling void and tucked down into the floor void. We've just positioned the 15mm acoustic sound block board there just over the floor. The homeowner had pets and we didn't want the pets going down into the suspended floor void during the night. Next, we insulate back from the conflicting party wall before we treat the ceiling, and here we've filled that void with an RW3 rock wool. After we've insulated the ceiling, we patch up where we cut open the ceiling, and we patch up with the heavy duty sound block board. The amount of people that actually just go over the top of the ceiling is unreal. If you cut open the ceiling, you've reduced the mass of the existing ceiling, so you must patch up where you've cut open the ceiling and then board over the whole ceiling. I've not gone into detail on how we treat the suspended floor void for damp and reduce the damp getting to all of those layers and increasing the airflow and all of that. That is all available in the noise-free DIY soundproofing course. If you want to see exactly how we install the rubber and those layers, check out Soundproofing for Beginners. As I said, it's a complete free course tutorial on that. But hopefully this video gives you some insights, maybe some inspiration to cut open that floor, cut open that ceiling, check for those holes in the structure, and do that extra 80% of the work so your wall actually becomes a 5-day installation rather than that 2-day installation, because you've tucked it up and you've tucked it down. Alright guys, I hope that video helps. I'll see you on the next video.